Welcome viewers to the Spotlight Show. The Spotlight Show is brought to you by the City of Farmington and Farmington Hills Commission for Children, Youth, and Family. I'm Sharon Snodgrass, a member of the Commission, and with us today is Chief Judge Marla Parker. Our topic is the Sobriety Court. We're in the judge's courtroom today, but not always is there litigation like on television, plaintiff and defendants. There are many other programs at the court, and the Sobriety Court program is a very important one. Judge Parker has been instrumental in the program, starting it in 2005, and it is very successful. So let's begin, Judge Parker, and most of our viewers already know Judge Parker. She's quite well known in the community, and she has been the longest serving judge in the 47th District Court. And in addition, she is a member of the Farmington Youth and Family Commission and was a founding member of the City of Farmington and Farmington Hills Community Foundation. So let's begin, Judge, with the mission of the program and the participants in this program.
All right, well, the Sobriety Court program was created to protect society and reduce crime. And we do that by targeting substance abuse and addiction. And we try to do that through intervention and treatment and offender accountability. And that's really our mission.
How would someone participate in the program? Do they have to live in Farmington Hills?
So it's not really an optional program. The program is focused on people who are charged with drunk driving, some form of drunk driving. And in order to be placed in the program, they would have to enter a plea of guilty to that charge. And this is an option then we try to screen people to determine if they would benefit from the services the program offers. So the first criteria is that you have to be a resident of Farmington or Farmington Hills. You have to be charged with drunk driving and have a blood alcohol content of either 0.15 or above, or have a certain score on a substance abuse screening, or have a previous offense for a drug and alcohol related crime. And then there's of course some discretion of the team to determine if someone might be appropriate for this intense program.
Are there other programs for other addictions like marijuana or something of that nature?
So our court has a number of things that we do if people are convicted of drug-related offenses or have other issues. We don't have a specialty court for that, but throughout the state of Michigan and actually throughout the country, there's a huge movement to look at specialty and treatment therapeutic courts to address things, addiction, mental health, veterans issues, and other issues that could be best served by an intense model such as developed in the Sobriety Court.
There, in the Free Press this weekend, there was a court in New Mexico or something, a drug treatment program, a successful graduate. So it is all around the nation.
It is, and frankly, one of the benefits about it is there's so much research done on therapeutic courts. It gives us as a judge and as our probation department an opportunity to look at what works to be effective, and so that we can utilize what works to make the biggest difference.
So why don't we talk a little bit, how long is the program if you're participating in it? I understand that there's 4 phases. Why don't we talk about the 2-year time period?
Yeah, it is a 2-year time period. So the most a district judge can place someone on probation is a 2-year period. And the research shows that the longer you keep someone accountable, the more likely when probation is over that the person will continue with the good habits that are developed in the program. So it is a 2-year program. However, the intensity of the program varies during each phase. So we start out with the first phase when someone is first sentenced for a drinking and driving offense. And the first phase is all about getting sober. Participant is required to be involved in substance abuse treatment, to attend individual and group counseling, to participate in support group meetings, things such as AA, to alcohol test multiple times a day, to drug test on a random basis, and attend various programs as outlined. And one of the biggest things that is different about sobriety court from a standard probation is on a standard probation, if I sentence someone, I generally would not see that person again until or unless they violated their probation.
So these offenders are really engaged. They have to do something every day.
They have to do something every single day. And in the first phase, they come back to court every 2 weeks to meet with the judge, and before we meet with them, we get some information and meet as a team to find out how that person is doing, and they report to me how they've been doing, and if they are doing well and continuing their sobriety, they are applauded and given some rewards, and obviously if they do not continue their sobriety
No
or
awards.
do not comply, no awards, but sanctions up to including some jail time.
Wow. And don't they have a contract to abide by and to follow, and a
Yes.
calendar, which I thought was an excellent idea?
Yes, in order to participate in sobriety court, there is a contract that the parties sign, and obviously some of that contract is to agree to participate in the program and to follow all of the program rules, which are extensive, but also they agree to remain a resident of Farmington or Farmington Hills and agree to live in an alcohol and drug-free home, car, person, so that, and they agree that they could be subject, they or their car or house could be subject to search at any time to verify that they're drug and alcohol free.
So your whole family or whoever you live with is engaged in the process also?
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. And I know that there are some folks who've been in the program who've decided to change residences if that was not something that their family or roommates would agree to.
Moving on to phase 2, a little less testing?
So in phase 2, once phase 1 we've determined that you've gotten sober, then phase 2 is, okay, let's see, do you have the tools to remain sober? So you're then starting to test for alcohol as well as drugs on a random basis. We add in some community service. That's something to repay the community and also something to be shown to be effective in addressing some issues of substance abuse by giving you some positive things to do. So you're required to attend a weekend driver intervention program where you're hearing from a victim or a victim impact panel. You're hearing about some of the consequences of drinking and driving. So that phase continues on, and they also come back to court for regular reviews about once a month.
So that's a pretty full plate there for part 2.
It is, and which is why when you are sentenced to sobriety court, we do give you a calendar so that we ask that you bring or require that you bring to anything sobriety court related, which means you're probably carrying it all the time.
Right.
And so that people can keep track of their appointments and the meetings they have to attend, and sometimes how many days that they've been sober, because we ask that in every
Question
court
2.
visit.
And of course, the community service was a new item in phase 2, is putting in some community service.
Yes, and it's ordered at the time of sentence. Participants can start it whenever they wish, but it's a requirement to be doing some of it in part 2 and at least getting started in part 2, and it can continue on into the 3rd phase.
So part 3 I found probably the most interesting in terms of you have to write why they won't relapse or what they will do, their relapse phase.
Right, so obviously you've gotten sober, you've remained sober for a period of time, but how is this going to continue? Because the participants in our program are people who have serious substance issues, and it's just not so easy to make up your mind and say, I'm not going to do it anymore. We need to make sure that you have the tools in place to maintain the sobriety. So in phase 3, we're looking at what other life issues are there? Are there medical issues? Are there housing issues? Are there other issues that are triggering relapse? And that we have each person write an individual plan to determine what is their plan for preventing relapse. And it addresses all kinds of things to recognize what their triggers are, what feelings they have, and how are they going to recognize it, and what is their plan when they have that. Are there people and places they need to stay away from? Do they have a list of people who they know they can turn to for positive support? We have them take a look at their short-term life goals and long-term life goals, so they really do have a plan for how they're going to continue on in the future.
I think that's really critical to any program, is to understand and write down those items for you about your relapse triggers.
And I encourage people when they write those plans to say this is a living document, to, instead of don't just write it and submit it to the court, look at it every so often, change it, update it to make sure that it's there to help you to turn to at any time.
So we're probably through about 2/3 of the year, and phase 4 is the last phase.
Well, we call phase 4 kind of the life phase, saying, okay, now you've really got all your tools in place. Let's see if you can live it. So that people don't come back to court for reviews on a regular basis, although they're still continuing to meet with their probation officers and continuing their treatment and support group meetings. They are seen less frequently by all, and the testing is, of course, still random, but to see that they live it. And then if they're if some people who reach phase 4 a little earlier can be in what we call step down to, it's almost a non-reporting probation,
Really?
that they still have to test, and we see that they're living it and are in contact with them to make sure that they're continuing on and till they finally get to the 2-year period when they graduate.
Well, let's talk about graduation a little bit. You do have some ceremonies. People are on a staggered schedule. They're not like a class. They're just depending on when they were, you know, first.
Right, the 2 years starts from the date of sentencing. So of course not everybody's sentenced on the same day or at the same time. At some point, if we have a number of people who are graduating at approximately the same time, we have had a formal graduation in the evening where we invite citizens and public officials to come and celebrate the graduations. And sometimes we have smaller ceremonies in court with the sobriety court participants. And just this week, we celebrated the end of the program for someone in our program who's been highly successful.
Wow, that's great.
So it is amazing at the graduations to hear people reflect on their 2 years in the program. And often people say this is the thing that saved their life.
That's great. It's a great program, a very successful program. And what about, do you have some people who've graduated and form a group of their own?
Well, we have a group called the Phoenix Group, and it's not only graduates, but everyone who is currently in the program and anyone who's graduated can participate. And the people currently in the program must attend once a month, and there is a daytime option or an evening option. And what happens is that people who are newer into the program are often mentored by people who have graduated or or are further along in the program. Sometimes they help each other with rides, because often you're losing your driver's license when you're convicted of drinking and driving. And so it's another area of support and encouragement.
We talked about during the time period, there's several teams they have that they meet with different, what kind of teams do we have? So first, the most important thing is our sobriety court team. When people come to court every 2 weeks or once a month, depending which phase they're in, before they actually come into the courtroom, earlier in the day, the sobriety court team meets, which consists of the judge, the sobriety court coordinator, probation officers, a defense attorney, therapists, and we discuss each case that's coming up that afternoon, and we determine, is the person participating in treatment? Are they making progress? Have they done all of their testing? Have they attended everything they're supposed to attend? And we discuss how they're doing, whether they are ready to move to the next phase, whether there needs to be a sanction, and then we determine as a group what the sanction might be. It's a little different for a judge to have that team participation, and obviously the final decision rests with the judge, but the whole beauty of the program and what has shown to work is to really use the team approach to have solid information in making that decision. Because often as a judge in court, you don't have the benefit of all of the other team members' experience with the individual. So they might be telling one story to their therapist and a different story to their probation officer, but they can't hear. Because it's a team effort.
It's a team effort. So also throughout, there are a number of groups that people attend, which are, support groups and group therapy and other things such as that.
Well, we mentioned before that you've been involved since 2005, starting the program here at the court, and you also got in 2014 award from the organization that talks about the different drug programs. That was a very nice honor,
Well,
indeed.
thank you. I was certainly honored to be selected with the Hero Award from the Michigan Association of Treatment Court Professionals, and I certainly appreciate that. I think they perform a valued service by the organization provides information and training for attorneys, judges, probation
valuable
officers
service.
to make sure that we have updated information. Because often what you find in a treatment court is things may not be, it may be counterintuitive. So for example, someone's comes in front of you for a drinking and driving case and they've had a drinking and driving before. Sometimes it's tempted to think, I'm just going to throw the book at them. You know, I'm going to send them to jail for as long as I can. But the research shows that's not really what works. Because once they get out of jail, they're going to go back
to their
behavior before. So it really does show that really to make the community safer, it's probably even harder to have them go through an intense program so that the community will be safe not only for the time they're in jail, but for a long time thereafter.
Well, and last but certainly not least is since 2005, there's been a lot of candidates, and about how many candidates have you had and how many do you have now?
So I have to say, I'm not sure how many have started the program. I checked recently, we have just over 100 people who have completed the program successfully.
Wow.
And currently in the program, we have 16 with a few more that are currently being evaluated. So we usually have about 20 at a time.
Well, that's great. It's a fantastic program, and I want our viewers to realize that Farmington Hills is very lucky to have Judge Parker with us and starting the program. And you can go to learn more about the district court at the Farmington Hills website, www.fhgov.com. So thank you very much, Judge, for being here and taking the time to tell the community about the very special program.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much.
So that's all.